Jenna, when the Dictators formed in the early 70s, New York was rapidly becoming the rock and roll center of the world.
There were a lot of bands getting started, getting record labels. You got Blondie, Television,
Name them all.
Ramones, Dead Boys, Patti Smith.
Yeah, Patti Smith, sure. Did you say the New York Dolls?
New York Dolls. Oh my gosh.
You didn't.
I forgot the best
Suicide.
one.
The Dictators were special. The Dictators were this irresistible combination of early rock and roll, doo-wop, which is part of their DNA, and I hear it, and I love that. It's not sha-na-na. It's
not overt.
It's not,
no, but you've got
but it's in
you
there.
hear it in the vocals,
no, it's in,
the backing vocals, and that call and response thing.
Right.
It's there.
It's there, and I love that. You have a hard rock sound, that you consider that MC5, or the Stooges, or even Blue Oyster Cult.
Or The Who, you mentioned. It sounded a little bit like The Who at times.
They can. On the first two records, there are Who-like moments that I think are pretty strong.
It's very riff-driven.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that heavy strum action.
But all with a humor and a sarcasm that is so endearing and pulls you into the music immediately. So the first album, Dictators Go Girl Crazy, was released in 1975 on Epic Records. And, Legs McNeil in Please Kill Me talks about finding that record and, him and John Holsom singing along to it, and they loved it. And they didn't even know they were still around because they really weren't.
Mm-hmm.
In 77, they get back together, get back into the studio to make their second record, which is Manifest Destiny from 1977 on Asylum Records this time.
Released on new label.
And it does aim at a wider audience. There's no question that I think I remember Andy Sharanoff, the main songwriter, saying that he felt that the first album overemphasized their humor, the humorous aspect of their songs.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that can lead to, a misunderstanding of the band, of the music. It happens all over the place. When things are funny, they tend to not get taken as seriously, unfortunately.
In music or in film.
In art, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, comedians don't win Academy Awards.
There you go.
That's always the thing.
There, you said it.
This album has anthemic, even arena kind of rock songs, ballads, power ballads, you could say.
I did say. All the songs are super dynamic. The tempos change. You've got a lot of stuff going on.
Sure, they're
on all
not
of them.
exactly. They're not 3-chord songs in the same respect. What you would maybe be led to expect. When I listened to this first, I thought immediately The Who. I thought, it sounds like, that has some elements of The Who. Blue Oyster Cult, which of course is like undeniable. I mean, it's sort of baked in a way. And I actually still think probably the band that this reminds me the most of is Cheap Trick.
Yeah, for sure.
And Cheap Trick is an interesting band to kind of compare them to.
Yeah, along with Cheap Trick, I can think of the Cars a little bit, which I think is interesting because, I mean, you're talking about like such a huge mainstream hit-driven band. And the Dictators are the opposite of that. But they could so easily...
Have been.
Yes, they could so easily have been the Cars. I mean, the songs are at that level, of course.
They could have had the same audience.
Audience.
If this album had struck a chord...
Yeah.
And as always, I don't know why it didn't. Why? Is it just not enough airplay? That's often the case.
Sure.
What's interesting to me is just... If you listen to the music... The first thing I thought of were those bands, and Cheap Trick, which is another band that has a little bit of a kind of crossover with a punkiness, but also very Who-like.
The other things I thought of were like glam bands, like Sweet, Slade. They have that sing-along quality.
70s rock.
I
mean, there's Slade is.
There's a lot of intersections.
Yes, there are.
Going on.
Yeah.
Intersections in the Venn diagram of the Dictators.
Mm-hmm. That, what we're talking about here, might keep people from fully enjoying this record because you're expecting punk, right? And this is rock and roll. And
It's just rock and roll.
70s rock and roll.
Yeah.
And it's done to perfection. I love these songs. Now, you have songs like Exposed.
Great opening track.
And Heartache. They have fantastic movement within the songs. Backing vocals that are phenomenal. Just such well-composed songs. They grab you immediately. They are not very aggressive.
No, but great choruses. They're really, infectious, stick with you. You remember them. You want to sing along with them. They have that arena rock quality.
And very rock and roll like. There's something 50s, early 60s about it, which, of course, again, I love.
Oh, it's got that thing where it's like pulling in two directions. It's reaching back. It's also something brand new.
Right.
Which is something that happened basically all the time in the 70s. Right here. I mean,
sure,
of course, Ramones, Blondie.
And that is the Dictators.
And that's what they're doing too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I always love Sleeping with the TV on. When I heard this, I'm a big William Powell fan.
Everyone knows that, Sean.
No, since I saw My Man Godfrey for the first time, and then I'll assume this is about the Thin Man, or at least one of the Thin Man movies.
Probably, because they were probably on TV late a lot.
But it's such a wonderful sideways torch song. This is great, such great songwriting.
Yeah, very sweet melody.
And
the sentiment is just it's so relatable and small in its way. Yeah. But I mean, it's a really beautiful power ballad.
Exactly right. I mean, that's what I mean. It's small, but then it becomes this more generalized emotion that anyone could could identify with. It's the best songwriters can do that. I mean, and this is a totally different kind of song with something like Autumn Almanac, or where it's about this one thing, and then Ray Davies all of a sudden
opens up to a universal thing.
Yes,
it's everything,
and it's like and I love that song. Disease is incredible. This is maybe the most dramatic, but almost, I don't want to say campy, because it's not, in my opinion, it's not. But this most dramatic kind of song that they did or have done so far.
The vocal is so borderline, unhinged, almost like horror movie.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
it does suit Handsome Dick Manitoba very well.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So it is. It's dramatic. It's intense.
I love the guitar. Scott Kempner is an amazing guitar player. He just recently passed away. And I didn't know that until
we were researching.
Quite recently. I don't check. I mean, because this isn't. I don't know what music service would report all these things.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I don't.
Well, none that we frequent apparently, because we didn't know.
And I do sometimes check on people, are they still around? Oh, good,
Yeah.
But nice I hadn't, and so he fairly recently passed away.
Very recently.
And also at the same time, the Dictators have also very recently put out another album,
right?
Which is incredible.
What timing we have! That's why this is gonna go viral.
Anyway, the guitar on this the guitar and everything.
Yeah.
But I just to point out, I love this almost surf-like sound on the guitar on this song.
The actual tone of the guitar is really just
the single
great.
lines. The way the way he plays is awesome, and I love the way the song evolves. Also, one of my favorite lines, I don't want to die, but I wouldn't mind if I was an idiot, it's so funny.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Well done.
And I think talk about relatable.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Side 2 definitely gets a little bit more intense. It begins with Hey Boys, which as humming it can go into Bohemian Rhapsody at times, which is funny.
You can just squiggle that way.
But Queen is a band that actually does have a whimsy. That
sure do.
That being English is not so far away from this.
Yeah, there's a charm, kind of innocent quality. Some of the songs, and the subject matter, they can go in they can talk about bicycles, or they can talk about
something more profound, or
something.
Yeah, I mean,
dust.
Well, it's not exactly about dust, John. I hate to break it to you. The first two songs, Hey Boys and Steppin' Out, are both just great anthemic songs, but quite, poppy, very much so.
And they all could have been hits.
Absolutely.
They all could have been hits.
I find the songs so enjoyable. These are genuinely just great songs from a great songwriter. I mean, there's nothing more to say.
Yeah. All right,
but anyway, the album then intensifies. Handsome Dick Manitoba takes over completely, and
unhinged vocals for the rest of the...
I mean, really, it does. Science Gone Too Far. Just a fantastic burst
catchy.
Of energy.
Yeah, it's so catchy.
And catchy.
Pounding, and it's like a propelling beat. Everything about that song just rushes forward. It's so cool.
And then Young, Fast, Scientific. It gets very scientific at the end of this.
They're very brainy too. College boys. New Pulse.
Yeah, right.
And then, of course, finishing with an awesome cover.
A absolutely iconic cover of Search and Destroy. And, that we were talking before about, 70s rock. And like we mentioned bands, how so many bands can have so much in common. And a lot of the genres tend to break these things up more than they really ought to. Everyone's listening to everyone. And a lot of these people have the same influences.
Yeah.
But what is a common band between so many people?
Right, you could just go back to
the Stooges. It's if there's one band and you have to put the name punk on one band, in my opinion, that's the band.
Oh, I thought you were going to say The Clash. I know you love them.
The Stooges are, always will be.
No, but you can absolutely, track back so many bands. Starting point is going to be the Stooges, or at least it's going to be the Stooges blended with something else.
I didn't finish the sentence. I'm not even sure what to say. The most astounding thing.
No, but this is a great cover. I mean, Search and Destroy, not the cover.
It's a good cover.
It is a good cover.
The album definitely ends very strong.
Yeah.
But that's why I do like the variety of this album, and I think that's missing. I will say on the next record, which is that album has its own merits. I like that, there's a little bit more variety here. You probably could have had maybe one more kind of harder rocking song,
Yeah.
But I do like the variety of it. It's very satisfying to listen to, and I can listen to it no matter what mood I'm in.
It's
fun. Which is not every album. Songs of pathos, there's humor, there's a little anger.
There's tragedy, there's joy, there's comedy.
Syphilis,
there's
possibly.
Comedy to Unite.
I was going to say one other thing just before we go. The Bronx thing. It's New York at that time was so interesting. And, and not as much now, but when we were, in Queens and even on Long Island, which you think, well, you're in New York City, you're in the Bronx, you're in Queens, you're in Brooklyn. Actually, those places are really far away. If you're in Queens, traveling to Brooklyn on the train is not
a nightmare.
It's not short, right? Traveling to the Bronx is something you do not do.
Yeah. No, that's the thing, especially in the 70s and before. I mean, the areas, the boroughs were all so distinct.
Yeah.
They were little, ecosystems.
Accents.
Different accents, different cultures, different, just different.
Yeah.
And people really were kind of insulated in each area, and there wasn't as much mixing, as there is now.
So I mean,
among all the boroughs.
According to what Lex McNeil says in Please Kill Me, Dictators, they didn't even know about this whole scene.
Right, so they're
in the Bowery.
All the way up there.
And it is all the way up there. If you're in the
Bowery
Bronx,
is very low.
Say because our mom was from the Bronx.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our family's from the Bronx, and yeah, she had they went upstate.
Yeah.
They didn't go. They went down to the city, but they didn't. Go to Queens or Brooklyn.
It's very interesting. And as far as music and musical styles and little pockets of music happening, it's very cool.
So there was such the people from the Bronx, and that would mostly be Italians and Jews.
Yeah.
Which is still most of New York. I mean, around that time anyway, but in this case, just Jews. But although they all have Italian names, but that's another story altogether. But and then the Queens bands and it's just such an interesting thing, and how much rock and roll came out of New York and how much New York has held on to that. So whether it's bands like obviously like Dion and the Belmonts or the Shangri-Las, that how they held on to those, and how they continue to influence Billy Joel or Brian Setzer or obviously Johnny Thunders or Lou Reed or all these people, and of course Andy Chernoff. It's really fascinating.
It is.
It's not that it hasn't been told at all, but I don't think it's been told quite enough.
And we'll tell it.
And ultimately, it's just perfect rock and roll stuff. Perfect rock and roll. This is like pure rock and roll to me.
I agree.
Still rock and roll to me.
It's only rock and roll to me.
But I like it. I like it. Yes, I do.
Thanks so much for watching our brief discussion of the Dictators album, Manifest Destiny. Make sure you let us know what you think of this album in the comments. Please give us a like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and we'll see you next time.